More than a half a century ago, my grandfather announced that it was time for us to go to Sabbath services. Grant piled us into his car, one of the few civilian cars on the roads in Bermuda back then, and got behind the wheel and drove us to the American military base. The base had been the home of many Jewish servicemen during World War II, and it was the only place on the island that held Jewish services. There was no synagogue and never had been. I didn't know then that we were a rarity on the island, the only Jewish family to have lived on the island for 4 generations. And I attended an Anglican girls' school. I knew very little about Christianity and not very much about Judaism. So when I sang, for example, Christmas carols, I got it wrong, right? O little town of Bethlehem became, O little tiny buffalo. No wonder my grandparents felt it was time for me to experience Judaism. So at the base, a Gramp got up on the stage with the other servicemen in the small auditorium. He held the Torah, the scrolls of sacred scripture written in Hebrew on parchment, held together and decorated with cloth and a gold metal breastplate. I leaned far out of my seat to see that. Almost fell over. But I was fascinated and wanted to learn more. And I did. At Passover, there was a community Seder. And it wasn't just the servicemen, it was all the Jewish tourists on the island. So the voices of Hebrew chants, prayers, songs were loud and strong. They became embedded deeply inside me, motivating me to learn about Judaism always. Now, there was one lesson that I did not anticipate, and it was when I discovered an old photograph of my dad in an army uniform. He explained that he had served in the army during World War II. And me, being young and naive, I asked, "Well, Daddy, did you kill anybody?" "No, but I slapped somebody once." "What? Who?" And he told me about a Nazi officer who said to him that his only disappointment in Hitler was that he hadn't killed more Jews. That was the end of the conversation for Dad. Not for me, though. I needed to know more. And while the word Holocaust was not commonly used back then, it has been woven into my life's work ever since. And it took several decades for me to get Dad to talk more about that experience and what he had seen. It changed me forever, and I suspect Dad knew that it would. And that's why he waited for as long as he could. Thank you, Daddy.